these candles. Ambiance.
Nailed it.
What'd you break? No idea what you broke. What?
So nothing actually broke, thank fucking God.
Oh. Don't come down. It's fine. It's fine. Just don't come down. You don't need to.
Don't need to witness what happened. Ooh, candles on the table. Oh my God.
Oh my God, I literally said the same.
Hey friends.
Hey, you guys. Welcome. I'm Abby.
And I'm Shauna.
And this is Anxious,
And Afraid.
a podcast that we do together.
And we're back after 2-month hiatus.
Hey, we missed you.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're already back.
Can you tell we're just high off of each other's own presence?
It's been a while.
We're just like, everything's hilarious, having a good time.
Best time ever.
We have so much to catch up on.
For realsies.
I mean, obviously, we left. Shauna was super pregnant.
I was, a little bit pregnant.
And now she's not.
I have my body back.
Hey. You want to
Sup?
talk about that?
Sure. So I have a baby now. She's a little human chunk.
She's fucking precious.
She was born on the 13th, and my last day of work was the 12th, which was crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I worked right up to the birth, pretty much.
Damn.
Exactly. But yeah, it ended up being a emergency C-section, so it was a little bit of a intense experience.
Yeah, talk about anxious and afraid. I peed when I got that news a little bit.
Yeah, it was very tense, and like the aftermath of all of that, like C-section surgeries are no joke. I'm still feeling it. Like I still am very sensitive in the area that they cut, like
And
inside.
You were like, they put you under.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the kind where you were staying awake.
No, it was like an actual emergency situation where like she was running out of oxygen.
Yeah, it was scary because like Jesse and I were the contact people for the families between, so that Chad had like a buffer. And he just was like, we might have to do a C-section. And then all of a sudden he's like, they're doing an emergency C-section. And we're just like, shit, fuck. And then we're just like, hey, family, so everything's fine. It's going to be great. They're just going to yoink that little baby out.
Yoink. Nice.
But it did all turn out. You're here. She's here.
She's fine. Everything's fine. I recovered pretty okay. I'm still just like sensitive, like I was saying before. I mean, it's pretty intense surgery. They cut you up in a lot of different places.
Yeah, dude.
I couldn't like seriously the worst week of my life because you like can't walk, like you can't even stand. And like trying to do that at home, getting to the bathroom, I was in tears for at least the first 3 days.
Like a brand new baby on top of that.
I know, like I couldn't really help or like change a diaper. I like sometimes fed her.
Oh, that'd be so frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing better.
Oh my gosh, she's so worth it. She's such a great baby. I love her to pieces. I can't believe my life.
She has the chunkiest little cheeks.
She's the cutest little crab rangoon that we call her.
A little crab cake. Tell everyone how much she weighed when she was born.
Oh, she was 6 pounds 6 ounces.
Yeah.
And she just had her 2-month check, and now she's 11 pounds 2 ounces.
She's like almost doubled in size.
So we are feeding her a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's demanding it.
Well, maybe someday we'll put little baby headphones on her and
She'll
do her own story.
Yeah, she'll be part of the crew for sure.
Yeah. But, well, yay. I'm so glad that everything went good. And
Thanks.
you're a mom now, which is so crazy.
So weird. I don't feel like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
the imposter syndrome where you're like, I'm not a mom now.
I'm not a mom. I just have a baby.
We hang out.
Yeah.
We're pretty exclusive.
She's my best friend.
Yeah.
But
Things are pretty
mom?
serious.
No, things are pretty serious.
You could say things are pretty serious, but we're not labeling it.
We don't like labels. That's funny. But yeah, that's what happened. Also, the world's a little bit different since we last.
There was like historic events or whatever.
Just add another one to the list.
It's just like Russia was like, sup Ukraine, I'm going to be inside you because I'm rude.
I'm gonna be inside you. Not in the good way.
No. It's
Not
bad.
in
Our hearts go out to Ukraine. Like, I've been following it really closely, and it's just fucking awful.
It's the worst. I can't believe it. Like, how many things do we have to like go through that are so unbelievably depressing?
I know, and it's also crazy seeing just like, I mean, it's the age of smartphones and media, so there's so much footage of stuff too, and like, you gotta be careful because like I've seen some things I did not want to see on Reddit, and it was graphic, and I was like, I'm scarred for life, but can't imagine what it must be like to be there. So
yikes,
terrible, terrible, terrible stuff. So if you're anywhere near there and you're listening, we support you.
Love you.
Love you. Sorry.
All right.
What else?
Also, another thing that happened was, well, how should we say it? We're not part of a network anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't like they hate us and they kicked us off or anything.
No.
The network just ceased to exist. The people running it were just like, couldn't do it anymore. And, you know, sometimes it happens. So
life happens. I get it.
Yeah. No hard feelings. We're just free agents now.
Yeah. Like how we started.
Yep. So. And really nothing is changing and is really affected at all. So
no, that's fine. Very true. Yeah. Maybe we thought we should mention it if you know that that the commercials are different. Sorry.
Not even the commercials, just like the intro and the outro. You won't hear that little like
where we mentioned the Oracle
Network thing at the beginning. That won't be there anymore.
I have to bleep that out. You're not even supposed to say that.
Oh, snap. We'll bleep it.
I don't think we have to bleep it. Like, being an ass.
Yeah.
Stop it, Michael.
I'm fooling.
I am not prepared for that.
I know Shauna just believes everything you say.
I am. I'm very gullible. I'm like,
illegal.
You hate me now. Oh my God, I knew it.
We're going to get fined.
Our show's going to go under. We'll never recover from this, Shauna. The financial ramifications.
I would believe it. I'm scared.
So yeah, okay. So no more network. Yeah, I didn't have any large life events happen to me over the break.
You're just still working.
Yeah, I did some art. I worked on my bathroom. just did some things. Hung out with Michael. We played Pokemon Go a lot.
Oh, you're back at that.
It's on the Switch.
Oh, the Pokemon Let's Go. Yeah, it's a remake of Pokemon Yellow that came out when we were kids.
Oh.
It's a remake for the Switch, and it's very good.
It's fun.
Oh.
So wasted a lot of hours doing that.
Nice.
By wasted, I mean not wasted. Relaxing.
We're going to catch them all.
You're living your best life.
Yeah. We are going to catch them all. Porkymon. He likes to call him Porkymon, and it
Porkymon?
makes me laugh.
Makes me laugh, too.
It's like, let's go catch some Porkymons. And I'm like, you bet. Okay. Let's stop.
Let's start.
Let's start joshing around, okay?
Josh it.
We're here for serious business.
We're actually trying to get in the groove of what we normally do here. We just talk about anxious and afraid things.
We have a story. I have a story for you. I'm like nervous because I haven't had to read out loud in a while.
I'm nervous to speak, obviously.
To listen and react. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm excited. We're excited to be back.
Yes. And this is episode 93.
93.
90 freaking 3. Okay. So I will say I struggled to pick a case for our first episode back after break, which I've told you about, but I wanted to do like a true crime case because I feel like we were lacking on that, or like people were asking for it. But then all the ones I wanted to do involved a child murder. Not the vibe that I want to bring to our very first episode back after you had a baby.
Right. I get that. Thanks.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate.
Yes. So I changed my mind like 4 times. I started 3 different books. And then I landed finally, and Michael was like witness to me just running around like a crazy person. Like, is it this book? What about this book? Maybe it's this book. Michael, look at the pictures in this book.
There's a package on the door. It's a book. There's another package on the door.
How many books are you purchasing?
This one has a creepy doll on it. You're just leaving it all around the house.
Oh my gosh, is it something haunted? Is it a haunted story?
Not this one, but that one's probably on the way.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, so it won't be a haunted. It's going to be more true crime.
Okay, I got it. That's what you were leading up to.
Yes. Okay, so I also started listening to a new podcast called Against the Odds. It's a Wondery podcast. I don't know if you've heard of that
Sounds familiar.
network. But it's really good. I recommend it. They do like a whole season for one story, that kind of a format.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. And they do a bunch of different, they have a bunch of different seasons already. So it's a good binge. They also have a big network and a big budget.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know, it sounds really good. They're well produced. And they have good researchers. So what they recommended, like their main source, was a book called Over the Edge by Greg Child. And I, of course, read it. There's also a really good article by Beth Rodden on outsideonline.com. Super worth a read. But are you ready to hear about what we're going to be learning about today?
I'm so ready, Abby. I'm so stoked.
Okay. So it is a little different from the stories I usually pick. And I'm not really sure what category it falls under. But today we will be discussing the story of 4 young American rock climbers who find themselves in a nightmare situation in a foreign country after falling into the hands of violent extremists.
Oh, no. That's a lot. That's heavy.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of elements there.
Yeah. So I doubt that you've heard of this one because I hadn't heard of it.
Okay.
And it happened in the year 2000, which at first seems like it wasn't that long ago, but then I'm like, oh, we're old, and that was a couple decades ago.
22 years ago.
Yeah, so there's that.
Gross.
I know. So this story reads like an action movie, and I have to say that the book Over the Edge was super good too. So I'm going to be using that as my main source material. The author of that book was also a rock climber, so you kind of get his expertise and personal stories, which is cool. And I'd like to give a blanket apology up front for the stammering and mispronunciations around the names and the countries in this story. I will do my best, but I already struggle with easy words. So
And it's our first time back, so we're probably going to be all like tongue-tied, like, how do we speak?
I know, and I picked an like advanced pronunciation story. Okay. So, as always, I'm going to start right at the beginning of our story by introducing the 4 young and athletically talented main characters. As you will come to see, these 4 people have one main thing in common. They're obsessed with climbing, something I will probably never understand.
No.
First up, we have the second eldest of the group at a whopping 22 years old. Named,
Oh, no.
I know,
These
they're
are
youngins.
babies.
They're youngins. Named Jason Smith, but his friends called him Singer. And you might assume that nickname comes from his lovely singing voice, but no. Jason had a reputation for sewing his own kitschy clothing, and Singer is a popular sewing brand, or machine brand.
Okay.
So that's fun. He likes to make clothes. Love a good nickname. There was a deep pull in Jason to climb. It was his passion in life. And as soon as Jason Smith turned 18, he left his hometown of South Jordan in Utah State and traveled to one of the most popular places to climb in the U.S. Do you have any guesses for where that is?
No.
Yosemite.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Makes sense.
beautiful. It's a beautiful national park.
Ugh.
It's in California. I totally want to go there. It's on my bucket list.
Same. That would be cool.
So he travels there and he gets hired at the Yosemite Lodge as a housekeeper. And when he's not making beds, he's out rock climbing. And if you're a rock climber in Yosemite, there's probably one place you have to go. That's El Capitan. Do you know that one? It's like this just massive, like wall face of, I don't know if it's granite, but it's just huge. It's massive.
Okay.
And breathtaking. And Jason's going to climb it. And he wanted to do it all on his own. Solo climbing was his specialty. It's also super ballsy. Mm-hmm. He had already done some pretty impressive climbs. He had solo climbed Mount Thor on Baffin Island near the Arctic Circle when he was only 20 years old.
Oh.
He had spent 13 days on the wall. So they like live on this wall.
Oh, so he does like, I set up a camp on the side of
Yes.
a fucking cliff and just sleep in the middle of a cliff.
Yes.
Like nothing.
Yes.
Literally nothing is underneath you.
Yes. The pictures.
I am not okay. Who does that? Who in their right mind does that?
13. That's like 2 weeks.
Holy shit.
With your ass in the wind.
How do you survive?
I mean, they have to also pack a bunch of gear.
While
Food.
suspended. Mm-hmm. And then climb with that gear.
Yeah.
And then set it up again.
It's just like mind blowing the strength and like endurance these people have.
Sounds
And
insane.
the strength in their fingers.
Yeah.
Like, they can do, like, finger pull-ups.
No.
Chin-ups. I can't even do a regular one.
That's bad. That's crazy. I feel like that no human should be able to do that.
I know. They're skinny little freaks.
Wow.
They're so strong. It's amazing. Okay, so he's got grit. And the ascent on El Capitan took him longer than expected, so he ended up missing a few days of work. When he got back, he knew that he was going to get fired, so he quit. He did the whole, like, you can't fire me. I quit.
I quit you first.
Yeah. So Jason then moved into his van and rented the cheapest campsite in Yosemite, where he stayed for a while. He worked for the North Face occasionally and spent the rest of his time climbing as much as possible. The campground was a popular hangout spot for climbers, so I'm sure they were all having a great time. They're in their 20s. I'm sure it's a fun time. Our next character in the story is 25-year-old John Dickey. He was born in Indianapolis, but his family moved around a lot as Dickey's father worked for the military. He was raised in a very religious household and was the perfect scripture memorizing son until he did what most teenagers do and became rebellious. He was a teen during the 90s, so he grew his hair out and adopted the metalhead stoner vibe, you know. Yeah. Probably wore a lot of ripped jeans, plaid. He told his Jesus-loving parents that he liked smoking pot and he was moving to California.
Nice.
Like, right on, brother. So he moved there in 1993, and in 1998, he graduated from San Francisco State University. Wow. John Dickey also loved to climb, but he wasn't as serious about it as Jason Smith. He loved the sport, but he also loved photography, and his two hobbies drew him to Yosemite in 1997, where he met Jason Smith. The two instantly hit it off and became good friends. They're both super sarcastic, like wisecracks, so they had like that similar sense of humor. The pair also found friendship at Yosemite in another pair of semi-professional young climbers named Beth Rodden and Tommy Caldwell. Beth Rodden was 20 years old from Davis, California. She had a small frame, youthful face, making her appear younger than she was. But she may have looked small, or was small, but she was not weak. By the time Beth was 20 years old, she'd already climbed in multiple states, including Oregon, and had recently gone on an international climbing trip to Madagascar. In 1998, she became the youngest woman to do a 5.14A grade climb at Smith Rock in Oregon.
Oh, nice. Cool.
And 5.14, for those of us who don't climb, is super fucking tough. That's like, the rating only goes 1 point higher than that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she's badass. She's one of I think was reading that she can do like 2-finger chin-ups.
Jesus.
Tiny woman, but she's so strong. So in the year 2000, Beth had come to Yosemite to free climb a route on El Capitan called Lurking Fear. Free climbing involves no gear to help you climb up, like pre-placed ropes. So you're having to do that. They still have safety ropes, but they don't have anything. They're not like pulling themselves up by a pre-attached rope. They're just using their own physical strength.
Okay.
So yeah, they're not being assisted by anything else. So that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
It's there that she met up with Tommy Caldwell, who was another impressive climber and someone that she had met in junior climbing school. The pair successfully made the ascent, with Beth being the second woman ever to do so on El Capitan. So she's just like shattering those glass ceilings. And of course, Tommy Caldwell became smitten with her, and Beth felt the same about the soft-spoken, kind climber, and the two became an item. But it was like a very innocent, young type of love. Like neither of them had ever dated before or, been in a relationship with anyone.
Fresh.
Yeah, and if you look at the photos, they look like children. They even though they're 20, they look like they're 15. Like they're just these fresh-faced, blonde, skinny, like little people.
We hate them, right? So we hate them?
No, their faces are very sweet. You would be able to hate them.
Just kidding.
You want to hate them because they're so impressive. Yes. Okay, let's see. So Tommy, was also doing some impressive climbs by the age of 22. His athleticism came naturally as his dad was a former bodybuilder and rock climber, and his mom was a mountain guide. He grew up in Loveland, Colorado, and started climbing from an early age. He became the first person to ascend a route he named Kryptonite near Rifle, Colorado, which held the toughest rating of 5.15. So that's the highest it goes.
Okay.
Not a lot of people can do that.
Wow.
His success in that climb cemented his name as one of the brightest new stars on the climbing scene. Okay, so now you have met our 4 rock climbers, and our 4 rock climbers have met each other, which is great. So during their time together in Yosemite, the group became good friends, and a plan for a future epic climb was hatched.
Of course you have to. If you have a gang of 4 people, you have to go on an epic mission.
Like, we're young, we're fun, we're hot, let's climb a rock somewhere else. The group wanted to climb the geological twin to Yosemite, which was located in the here we go. Karavshin is the word. In the Karavshin region in the country of Kyrgyzstan.
I see what you mean now. That is rough.
Here we go. The area was internationally famous as a popular destination for big wall climbing. But international trips cost money, right? So Beth and Jason pitched their expedition idea to the very rich and established company, the North Face. And lucky them, the company decides to fund their trip, as long as they took some awesome photos of the climbers using their gear and whatnot.
Okay, wait. So is that the actual like Pacific Northwest brand like you see on coats? North Face, the North Face.
The North Face.
Okay, I've always wanted one of their jackets.
I know. It's like all of the basic white bitches that I went to school with had one.
Right.
With their leggings.
Now they drive Subarus, and I'm like, I just wanted a jacket.
I just want the jacket, not the lifestyle.
Exactly.
Yes, that brand, the North Face.
I understand. Okay.
Spendy brand.
It is.
Yeah. So they're very official, which is kind of cool that they got that.
That's huge.
That's kind of big, right? So they're obviously like established in this world.
Yeah.
So the 4 climbers prepared their trip and they got their passports in order. Some of them even checked the U.S. State Department's website to check for travel warnings in the area. There was a warning regarding Kyrgyzstan from the previous year, dated November 17th, 1999, which stated, quote, due to military and insurgent activity throughout most of the southern Kyrgyz Republic and the Kyrgyz-Tajik border areas, the Department of State cautions U.S. citizens to avoid all travel west and south of the southern provincial capital of Osh. The warning went on to explain that in August 1999, Islamic militants had launched an armed offensive from Tajikistan into southern Kyrgyzstan, and that the militants kidnapped foreigners in an effort to publicize their movement and make monetary demands. Now, if I had read that before traveling to a foreign country, I would have been too scared to go.
Yeah.
But these guys saw the post date from 1999 and thought it was old info and the area must be okay by now.
But that was only a year ago?
Yeah.
In this world?
Yeah.
No. Stupid 20-year-olds.
I know.
20-year-olds, you're stupid. I'm sorry, but you are.
That's 'cause we can say that because we were very stupid when we were 20.
Yes, and I knew it.
I knew it.
I knew the 20 sucks. Just kidding.
So they're like, oh, it must be fine by now. And also, the notice wasn't an official travel warning after all. And these guys, of course, like what we said, they're in their early 20s. You feel invincible, like nothing's going to happen to you.
Right.
You're a good
What are
person.
the odds of it happening to us?
Like, I've never done anything wrong. Why would anyone do anything to me? Like that kind of
Exactly.
thinking.
For sure.
Yeah, so they're very naive of the world.
Yes.
Let's see. So if they had dug just a little deeper into that site, they would have seen a much more recent post, only from the month before, warning of possible armed insurgent activity. So it's definitely looking a little bit sketch.
Uh-huh.
Also kind of important to point out that this is pre-9/11.
It is.
Yeah. So that's something to think about.
Yeah.
Jason Smith had also arranged through a travel agency in the area for a helicopter to take the climbers from Bishkek to Karavshin, and Smith claims nobody from the travel agency said anything about possible danger in the area that they were asking to be flown to.
You'd think they would know, too, though.
Yeah, well, they probably also like money.
True. Damn it.
So he's like, yeah, no one's saying anything, so it must be fine, right?
Ugh.
So on July 25th, 2000, the year 2000, the 4 young climbers board a plane in San Francisco bound for Kyrgyzstan for the trip of a lifetime.
How many hours is that? Do you know?
A lot. I don't know.
Okay.
Too many.
Yeah.
They had multiple layovers.
Yikes.
But sadly, it wouldn't be memorable for the reasons the climbers wanted. And I think we should just take a quick break.
Okay.
And we're back from our break.
Hello.
Hi, feeling refreshed. Okay, back to our climbers. So, they already had a rough start to their trip when their flight was delayed by 14 hours due to a sick pilot. And then when they finally got to Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan, they find that one of their bags full of climbing gear is missing and lost by the airline.
Oh, no.
So traveling is super fun. Michael and we lost one of our bags coming back from Thailand. They delivered it to our house, thankfully, but
Really?
we were panicking.
I
I was like,
it's such a nightmare. You're bringing everything that you need in a bag. So-
and the gifts that we had bought people too. And I think it was my suitcase, of course, pretty sure. And I was just like,
it's like people's stuff, dude.
I know. I was like, oh no, I've never been in this situation. Like, this is like the stereotypical thing that happens to people when they travel. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that happens to them, only it's worse for them because this is on their way to where they're going and it's full of climbing gear. Not great. So the climbers grapple with the loss and beg the travel agency they booked with to try and recover the bag full of essential climbing gear. The travel agency was like, yeah, like we'll do our best, but you got to go. There's a helicopter waiting for you to take you to base camp. Mm-hmm. So the Americans rush off in a van, driving them to the helipad, none of them realizing that they had failed to register their names with the American embassy. Something that is voluntary, but strongly advised as a safety measure. Oops again. And to be fair, I didn't do any of that when we went to Thailand.
Shame
yeah,
upon you.
Stupid Americans. So, sorry, world. I feel like I looked at like world events and I was like, seems chill. But like we didn't register our names with the embassy or anything like that. So, I mean,
supposed to? This seems so important. I don't know. I've never traveled.
Yeah, world traveling. Especially, I feel like it depends maybe where you're going. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, we didn't do that either. So I guess that's a good thing to know that you can do. So the climbers get to the helipad and they board this massive Russian Mi-8 helicopter, which is operated by the Kyrgyz military. Which I guess they would rent out their services for the extra dough from paying tourists. Get a ride in a military helicopter.
Fun.
Soon, they were flying over the countryside to the Karasu region and into the Karasu Valley, where snowy peaks and steep granite walls came into view. Known as the Yosemite of the East, the Karasu Valley is a remote area that lies between the borders of Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, populated mostly by farmers. The Americans pressed their faces to the glass to see the peaks, and the pilot pointed to them, explaining that Yusen was the big mountain, and Asan is the little mountain, and across a river that cuts through the valley is the Yellow Wall, a popular climbing destination. And I bet the Yellow Wall is probably like El Capitan. They're kind of similar. Okay, so the pilot brings them down to a clearing next to the Karasu River and tells the climbers he would return in 6 weeks for them at the end of August. That's so long. Just saying that, like, 6 weeks in the wilderness?
Too much.
That's so long. So the gear is unloaded and the helicopter takes off, and they're on their own now. The group gets to work setting up their camp in a meadow near the river. The views are breathtaking, and the Americans can't wait to start climbing the remote mountains. Over the next couple of days, their camp was visited often by the local farmers and their families. Everyone in the area is super friendly. Like, all the locals are super nice to them. And they're super interested in all the stuff that, the Americans have. John Dickey had a Russian phrase book on hand, as Russian was widely spoken in the area, since this country used to be part of the Soviet Union before its collapse. So he brought his little phrase book along and to get to know the visitors, and they, would learn more about each other. There's like lots of kids that would come by. They would take their Polaroids and like give them as gifts. It's super cute. And they were super interested, and they had brought like a CD player, and they were playing Black Sabbath, of course.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so all the people were like, "What the fuck is that? That's
Whoa,
cool."
that's a choice,
Right? So during this time, John also takes stock of what they're missing from the lost bag of gear and realizes that they're missing quite a lot, including climbing harnesses, a sleeping bag, a water filter, and a fuel bottle for one of their stoves.
Just like really important
Yeah,
things.
just like essential items. So this was a problem because the four were planning on splitting off into two teams during their climb, but now they wouldn't be able to if they had to share a stove, especially if they're going to be living on this
6 weeks.
motherfucking wall too. And their ass
Why would
in the
they
air.
split? That's also dumb.
Well, like I think they generally climb in partners, like so they usually climb in
easier?
teams of two.
Okay.
I don't know, things to do with laying ropes, and I'm not a climber.
Okay.
Please do not pop quiz me.
Okay. You mean you didn't learn the whole craft of the sport of climbing?
I didn't go to the rock wall, okay, and I didn't wear the rock shoes, and I didn't wear the rock chalk on my fingers. But they know what they're doing. Okay, so they usually climb in pairs of two, but now they're not going to be able to because they only have one fuel canister for their stove.
Okay.
They're like, bummer. So when he takes stock of all their missing stuff, Jason and John are like, this is too much stuff to be missing. We need to get that bag back. Mm-hmm. So they decide that they needed to go to the nearest town in order to find a phone so they could track down their missing bag of gear.
Why didn't they do that in the first place?
Because the travel agency was like, just go. Or like, you have a helicopter you have to catch. Get out of here.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Yeah. Well, they had already talked to the travel agency about it. So they kind of wanted to check in, I think, with the travel agency to see if they had found it yet. Mm-hmm. Because at first they didn't know what they were missing is the other thing. They just knew a bag was lost.
Okay.
So, I mean, tracking down a phone does sound reasonable until you remember that they were helicoptered in.
Yeah.
They don't have one of those anymore. So, the area is so remote that people traveled by donkey a lot of the time.
Wow.
Which still took days. But these are two dudes in their early 20s, and they are feeling spry. And they're like, well, I guess we have some walking to do. And they set out in search of a phone. The pair takes one of the radios they have with them and leaves the other with Beth and Tommy. Meanwhile, Beth and Tommy decide that they might as well get some climbing in on the yellow wall. And the pair set to work planning a climbing path and then scaling the first couple 100 feet up, setting ropes as they went. That way they can ascend and descend quicker and more safely when the other guys got back.
Okay.
Tommy and Beth also brought the gear to the base of the wall so that everything was ready to go when their friends got back, but they were going to be gone longer than they thought. So Jason and John, they're traveling. They honestly don't know where they're going is the other thing.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Just stir that up.
They're just going. They're just walking. And they get stopped whenever they pass a home, like of these farmers, because everyone's so nice, and they always want them to come in and drink chai tea. And these are like, we're trying to find a phone. Yeah, it's really, they have like this whole side quest, which is pretty cute. And after miles of walking, they come to Kurbaka, which is a Kyrgyz military base, and are stopped by armed soldiers who searched them and checked their passports and their frontier permits. The Americans tell them that they are there in search of a phone, but they find that the military base doesn't have a phone.
Lie?
No, it's a very remote region. They honestly don't have a phone.
What?
Yeah, so they were going to have to go to Batkin, which was days away. They also spoke no Russian, which the soldiers thought was hilarious. They're like, wow, you Americans are just wandering around in the middle of nowhere looking for a phone and you can't speak the language? Like, good luck.
Oh my gosh.
So the boys actually end up spending the night at the base, completely unaware of why all of these soldiers were stationed there. And the men never gave them any indication of being tense or a reason to worry. But the reality was, those men were there because of the possibility of an invasion by the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, or the IMU for short. This was a militant Islamist group formed in 1998 with the goal of toppling the government in Uzbekistan in order to create an Islamist state under Sharia. So they wanted like a Taliban-style government, and they were very willing to use violence to accomplish their goals.
Sure.
These are not good dudes. They end up being really good friends with Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda.
Oh, super chill.
So, you know, if you need any more convincing, just look those guys up. But Abby, I thought we were in Kyrgyzstan, not Uzbekistan, I hear you say. Well, yes, and I would advise you to look at a map of Central Asia, which I have already shown Shauna.
Yes, she has.
If you're as clueless as I am about the borders of Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and importantly, Tajikistan, they're all interlocking in this kind of like convoluted borderline, which was apparently the brainchild of Joseph Stalin when he was in power.
Cool.
Fun. Now, the IMU operated out of bases in Tajikistan, but they, of course, needed to get to Uzbekistan if they were going to overthrow their government. And if you're still following me, the most direct route to get there was through Kyrgyzstan, which is where our climbers are.
I see.
Get it?
Yeah.
So they were in one country, they got to get to another country, they got to go through Kyrgyzstan to get there.
Understood.
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow.
I hope that was
Are you okay?
made sense.
Yes. You did good.
Okay, good. I didn't know almost anything about most of this before I started researching it, so I was on the learning path.
Absolutely.
It's real fun. Only a year previous to the Americans' arrival in Kyrgyzstan, the IMU had launched a surprise raid, pouring over the mountain passes from Tajikistan and terrorizing the villages in Kyrgyzstan. They killed many soldiers and police. They took others hostage, including a team of Japanese geologists who just happened to be there at the wrong time.
Yikes.
The Japanese hostages were eventually released for a hefty ransom, like millions of dollars, giving the IMU ideas for future revenue opportunities. It's like, oh, we just have to kidnap foreigners, ransom them for money, and like our whole shit is funded? Like, okay.
So simple.
It's a sure plan to success. Okay, so that's my like vastly oversimplified overview of what is going on in that area, to which our American climbers are completely oblivious.
Stupid young American.
I know. Oh, I'm the same. Okay, back to Jason.
I know, right?
I'm like, I can't
Same.
say anything. I would be the same way.
I know, I'm the same too.
Although I would never volunteer to go there
No.
and climb a mountain.
No way.
Okay, so back to our boys. They essentially have a 4-day adventure in which they meet all kinds of people, but ultimately they fail in their quest to find a working phone and have to turn back to their base camp empty-handed.
Bummer.
Yeah, so they return skinny and exhausted, but thrilled with their little side quest adventure. They already have some cool stories for when they get back home. Jason and John announce their return on the radio, and Beth and Tommy are glad to hear they made it back safely. I mean, if my friends were gone for 4 days, I would assume they died.
That's also terrifying. Yeah.
But yeah, they're in good spirits when they get back. So Beth and Tommy go back to their camp to wait for the other two. But as they arrive, they see 3 Kyrgyz soldiers and a German shepherd waiting for them. The soldiers are led by a sergeant who checks the Americans' papers. He is friendly enough, and after he is satisfied with their papers, they continue on their way. Over the next couple of days, the Americans enjoy the area and do some climbing. They end up running into a group of Australian climbers and meet a woman named Kate, who tells them that she will sell them one of her fuel bottles since they were planning on leaving in the next couple of days. She gave them directions to her camp, and the Americans promised to come find her and purchase the fuel bottle before they left. There was also a group of German climbers in the area that the Americans would end up speaking with as well. So there are other, like, climbers, I guess, in the area, but not a lot of other people. On the day that they were told to come for the fuel bottle, Beth and Tommy hiked to the spot that Kate had told them, but their camp was gone. The only indication that they had been there was the flattened grass.
That's spooky.
The Germans would tell them that they saw something very strange. The soldiers had come and taken the Australians away, but they didn't know why. The Americans would later find out that the Australians were taken away due to their mountaineering permits supposedly not being correct, and that the soldiers were also planning on coming back for the Americans. But the Kyrgyz soldiers wouldn't make it back for a very ominous reason. On the trek back to camp, Tommy and Beth would cross paths with a shepherd who simply stared at them and hissed, "Cuidado," or "be careful" in Spanish.
Oh, that's nightmare fuel.
It's just like this leathery old shepherd. He's like, "Cuidado." And you're like,
Ew, that's so spooky.
He just like walks away. That's all he says to them.
That's chilling.
It's so creepy. It gives me goosebumps. So it's now August 11th, and the 4 Americans have decided to combine forces and climb the Yellow Wall. This will take them days, so they have to also haul tons of gear up the wall while they climb. And they install portal ledges, which is what it sounds like. It's the little portable sleeping ledge platform thingy that they attach to a fucking mountain. And then they sleep on it, and there's nothing below you but your ass and the breeze. So it's just terrifying. But
yeah, I'm still in my head. Who would ever choose to do that?
It gives me so much fear just to even look at pictures of it.
Especially for that long. It's not even for like a one-time experience for a one-night thing.
No.
Because you're some crazy ass. But they're even crazier because they do it for 6 weeks.
Multiple days. And the other thing, they have to poop in a tube.
I was wondering, I was like, what do you do with all the going to the bathroom business?
Yeah, like Tommy and Beth were like newly dating and they had to...
Oh my God, awkward.
They had to talk about how they would like have to be all like nice and like if one had to answer the call, like the other one would have to like look away and get as far away as they could to try and be nice. But they had to like poop literally in a tube.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it would be hard to poop in front of
your brand new boyfriend.
What in the wilderness? Please don't look.
Like they have not slept together or anything like that. Like they're just the most innocent, innocent children.
Oh man.
So as they are packing their gear to embark on the climb, Beth is filling up her water bottle when she glances up and sees 2 men with automatic rifles and camouflage gear staring at them from a couple 100 feet away.
Oh my God, terrifying.
The men have dirty long hair and unkempt beards, and they watch the camp with dark, hardened eyes. The climbers wave to the men, who wave but don't smile. They are definitely different from the soldiers that they have all seen because those guys were all pretty clean shaven with short hair. The climbers watch as the men silently walk away, leaving the Americans with a deep sense of unease. But there's still a big old wall to climb, and the Americans do so, ending the day under just 1,000 feet up the wall, which is
casual 1,000.
Just a casual 1,000. The 4 of them cozied up in their bright yellow portal edges, eating their freeze-dried dinners and listening to Black Sabbath.
Oh, the food and the amount of work and the stupid nuts and berries you have. Like, ugh.
Shauna's not into the lifestyle.
No, I don't get it.
It's not her life. We like to be comfortable. That's my lifestyle.
I like to sit and eat. Those 2 activities.
Not freeze-dried food. So after midnight, Beth surprises her boyfriend Tommy of 5 months with a cup of chocolate pudding with a lit candle stuck in the middle.
Oh,
he had
so sweet.
Forgotten that it was his birthday.
Oh, so sweet.
I know. After all the craziness, and the group sings him happy birthday before turning in for the night. So I think he just turned 22.
Oh, that's such a precious little thing.
I know, such a sweet little innocent
just like a little pudding cup with a candle.
Yeah.
That's so precious.
It's so cute. Okay, it's now 6:15 a.m. the next morning, August 12th, and the Americans are jolted awake by a loud pinging sound bouncing off the granite wall. The climbers stare at each other with wide eyes, trying to reason with themselves that it was probably just a rock falling somewhere. But then...
I wish it was.
Yeah. A second unmistakable shot rings out. A gunshot. And the bullet hits 30 feet below them. Someone was shooting at them.
No, and they're on just a cliff. They can't move very quickly.
A third shot hits closer, 20 feet away, and the shocked Americans scrambled to see who was targeting them. Jason and John crack a couple of nervous jokes that maybe it was their lost luggage returning to them, or maybe someone had a birthday gift for Tommy. But the joking stops when they see two men waving to them, motioning them to come down, with a third armed man posted further down the wall. Ultimately, John Dickey decides to go down, as he is the oldest at 25 and has a beard, so you can man points. It takes him about half an hour to get down, and as he gets closer, his heart rate quickens as he gets an eyeful of the serious assault weapons the men are carrying.
Can you imagine the anxiety of having to just go down farther and farther, and you don't know what's going to happen at the bottom with these dudes with guns?
And it's a 30-minute drop, too.
Yeah.
It's not like you are there real quick. You have to think about it for 30 minutes.
You're like literally thinking about, oh, when I get to the ground, I could be shot in the head and die immediately. I hate that.
So these guys are also carrying large knives, lots of ammo, and hand grenades strapped to their bodies.
No.
He also notices that they had a range of clothing from army-style fatigues to ragged sportswear to modern Western-style mountaineering clothes. Dickey could probably guess those clothes were stolen, and these guys were not friendly soldiers or farmers.
Yeah.
He approaches the men slowly and introduces himself as John. One of the men steps forward and crushes his hand in a hard handshake, introducing himself as Abdul. The other man calls himself Obed. Abdul points up to the portal edges and puts up 4 fingers. John nods yes that there were 4 of them in the group. Abdul then starts making lewd hand gestures to describe a female body, gesturing back to the portal edge, and though John is now feeling really bad about this,
Oh no.
he regretfully nods that yes, they had a woman with them.
Oh no.
Abdul then gestures that they all needed to come down. John tries to argue and ask why. Abdul mimes the act of eating a meal and cuts John off, pointing to his radio, repeating that he needed to tell the others to come down. John's shaky voice comes over the radio back at the portal edges and tells them they all needed to come. The others could tell by his voice that he was serious and he was scared. Beth was already crying and terrified out of her mind. I mean, I would be so fucking scared. Like, she's the only woman there.
She is the only one?
Yeah, she's the only woman.
Why did I think there was 2 for some reason? But oh my god, there's only one.
She's the only woman.
Oh, that's sad.
And so there's an article in that publication I spoke about in the beginning. It's called The Outside. She wrote an article for that publication, like, after all of this is over. And she talks about, like, what she was feeling in that moment.
Oh my god.
And she recalled just being terrified that she was about to be raped. Like, that's all she could think about.
Of course. I would immediately think that.
And she'd never been sexually active with anyone. She's just, like, this
that's
sheltered,
so much worse.
so she's losing her mind, like, terrified, like, who wouldn't be?
Oh, that's so sad. Okay.
And she was also saying, like, she and Tommy had waited. Aww. And now she was feeling all of these regrets and, like, fears. And I was just like, oh, this poor girl. I want to save her.
Sad. Okay, that's so sad.
But she had no choice but to climb down with the others. When they are all on the ground, the armed men make them all walk back to camp. And what the Americans saw assured them that they were in deep shit. All of their stuff was strewn about after their tents had been cut open and the contents ransacked. The third gunman is introduced as Sue, and the climbers note he's already wearing their stuff. Which is just, like, so ballsy. He's like, hi, I'm Sue. I'm wearing your shoes and your jacket.
Oh my gosh.
Sitting off to the side is a 4th man in khaki army fatigues. He keeps his head down and has a clean, shaven face and short hair. As they stare at him, the group realizes they had seen that man before. He was the sergeant with the German shepherd that had checked their passports a few days ago. He was a Kyrgyz soldier. Tommy recalled his name was Sergeant Turetbek Osmanov of Turet.
Wow.
or Turet is his name for short. So we'll just call him Turet. And it appeared that he was a prisoner of these guys. When their captors weren't looking, Turet scratches numbers and symbols into the dirt, and the Americans glean that he had been with 2 other soldiers who had been ambushed and killed. They were only keeping Turet alive to lead them through the mountains. Oof. When he sees how terrified the climbers are, he assures them that they would not be killed, rubbing his fingers together to signify money. The men want to ransom the climbers for money, and they would need them alive to do that. They're like, oh, good. Okay. Great.
Sign of relief here.
Lovely. So random foods and supplies were shoved into bags, and the climbers were told to dress warmly. They were then made to dismantle their camp. One of the rebels found a Polaroid of Beth and Tommy together, and John Dickey was like, yes, they are married. He was like really trying to like get this through their head that they're married. Everyone wanted them to believe that they were married, hoping that it would give them like another layer of protection for Beth.
Yeah.
Which actually seemed to work. They didn't attack her.
Okay.
Abdul, who seemed to be the leader of the group, suddenly orders everyone to hide. Moments later, an Mi-8 helicopter passes overhead. As soon as it leaves, they were all ordered to walk, understanding that they were officially hostages and there was nothing they could do about it.
Oh my God.
They were forced to run with 50-pound sacks on their backs. Keeping in mind, Beth is like 90 pounds, soaking wet.
Okay.
The rebels are clearly trying to avoid the Kyrgyz military and force the hostages to periodically hide and then run. The climbers ask Turat where they're going, and he shrugs and says, Uzbekistan or Tajikistan. he doesn't know. More than once, Turat has tried to convince the Americans to fight their captors. But they're like, oh, they're armed. They have guns. Like, what are what are we supposed to do?
Seriously.
At around 2 p.m., they come to the Aksu River and see two soldiers who are they're forced to sneak past them. They cross the river and hide behind some boulders with a vantage point overlooking the footbridge, which is one of the only crossing points along the river. Suddenly, the Americans realize the rebels are laying a trap for the Kyrgyz soldiers. What the rebels don't know is the local shepherds have tipped the soldiers off to their position, and they know that they have the Americans. They also know that the rebels murdered their comrades in cold blood after finding their tortured and mutilated bodies where Turat and the other two soldiers had been ambushed. Oof. Like, I didn't do the details, but they very bad and unnecessary.
Oh, that's sad.
So the military's pissed, obviously, like they want revenge for their comrades. Soon, 3 soldiers are sent to cross the footbridge in search of the rebels. But before they can cross, the quiet afternoon explodes with the sound of multiple automatic weapons firing from multiple locations. Sniper rifles, anti-tank rounds, AK-47s, and friggin' machine guns are pumping the air full of lead from both sides. Like there's more rebels in the hills, and there's like soldiers along the river, and they're just like going for it. The climbers do their best to become very small balls and hide. Tommy feels a searing heat on his back and fears that he's been shot, but is relieved to see that it's only a piping hot shell casing sliding down his back. Yay. The captives witnessed 2 Kyrgyz soldiers get shot and go down by the footbridge, staring unbelievably at the horror of the situation. Can you imagine you were there for like on a vacation and now you just saw people get murdered like right in front of you.
You're in a battlefield.
At one point, Abdul called John over to his position and gestured to the gun as if he wanted John to pick it up and start firing.
Oh, no.
John is super freaked out and is thinking like this is some kind of a trap. But before he could make a decision, a bullet glances off of a rock right next to his shoulder, and Abdul tells him to go back to his spot. And he's like hyperventilating at this point, just so freaked out. After more than a half hour of shooting, a lull in the gunfire happens, and Abdul approaches Turat, who is sitting with the Americans. Earlier in the day, before they had crossed the river, Turat had pointed to the spot they were hiding in now and told the climbers that over there, they kill me. They had told him, Niet, you'll be okay. But Turat seemed to know that his time had come. Abdul grunted a word to Turat and gestured for him to move to a car-sized boulder 200 feet away. Turat stares at him hatefully and then stands up and turns to Beth, who is now sobbing. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a hard candy, placing it in Beth's hand.
Okay.
He told her, you don't cry, I don't cry, and I'm the one that will die.
Oh. And
with that, he ran through the gunfire to the large boulder, followed by Abdul. Moments later, 2 pistol shots rang out, and they knew Turret was dead.
Whoa.
That's some serious shit right there.
That is some serious heavy shit right there.
As the afternoon continued on, the Kyrgyz soldiers were gaining ground, and the Americans were told to run to the car-sized boulder that Turret had just been sent to. John runs first, being heavily fired upon and carrying a heavy backpack. He makes it to the boulder unharmed, although his actual backpack takes a bullet. Oof. He is immediately met with Turret's corpse lying face down in the dirt.
Oh, sad.
And recoils in horror. And soon the other Americans make it to the rock and are also forced to deal with the reality of Turret's death. They see a new rebel there they had not yet met, named Abdullah. He seems to be completely unbothered and carefree as he laughs and introduces himself and then sits back against Turret's corpse while crunching on an apple. He picks up Turret's arm and drops it back in the dirt, finding this to be hilarious. He's just like laughing hysterically.
What a villain.
I know. Then Abdul...
With an apple.
I know, with the apple.
It just makes it more like villainy.
I bet it was a green apple too.
Right? Green is evil, obviously.
Evil green apple. And then Abdul kicks Turret's legs out of the way so that he can lay down his prayer mat and begin his evening prayer, as do the rest of the rebels. It's like, whoa, what is happening here? They're just like
they just kick the dead body aside a little bit so they can pray.
What? and this is like, they do it every morning and every evening, like throughout this whole ordeal. Like no matter what is happening, they do this. Very committed. I'd be like, God, I'm sorry, but I need a rain check this current moment.
Right.
So at about 6 p.m., the rebels decided that they needed to make a run for it, knowing that they were outnumbered. So they make the climbers ditch most of the gear that they had already lugged around all day and reduce their supplies to a little bit of food, a sleeping bag, and a bag of toiletries. Before they go, the climbers beg the rebels to leave them here. They are only going to slow them down. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure the rebels knew that the only reason they were still alive was because they had the hostages with them. So they tell the Americans to shut up and run. Darkness had fallen as the group runs from tree to tree under occasional gunfire. At around 11 p.m., they are finally allowed to stop and rest, completely dehydrated, starving, and exhausted. Obed comes to the Americans with 4 pieces of hard candy in his hand and offers it to them as their dinner. They take the opportunity to ask Obed how old he is, and he replies that he is 19.
What?
19. He's younger than they are. They would later find out that most of their captors were about the same age. Like, either the same age as them or younger.
Whoa.
It's just so wild.
It's
like,
not what I was picturing at all.
I know. It's just, you think like these like older, hardened men, but it's like a bunch of young dudes.
Wow.
For the most part.
Okay.
So the group sleeps for about an hour before they are awoken by the rebels planning their next steps. Obed and Abdullah break off from the group, heading south. They have one of the climbers' radios, and Abdul has the other. Now it's just Abdul and Sue in charge of the hostages, 2 against 4. But they're still armed. The Americans are told to start walking again, and they walk until about 3 a.m. where they reach a river. Suddenly, the Americans are split into 2 pairs, much to everyone's distress. Beth and John are led away by Abdul to the riverbank, where Abdul has carved a small cave/hole into the side of the river embankment, and he motions with his gun for them to both crawl inside.
Oh, no.
They're like, no, dude, like, we're not going to fit. But Abdul insists with his gun, so the pair begin to fold themselves into this hole.
No.
Cave.
No.
It is
Claustrophobic.
18 inches tall at its highest point. And the pair have to spoon each other, which is probably a little awkward considering she was dating Tommy. But
yeah, I was going to say, she's not with her boo.
No. Also, sex, I'm sure, is like the furthest thing from their minds right now. But like,
for sure. But like,
very intimate.
Yeah.
And also claustrophobic. Like, just reading about it made me want to hyperventilate a little bit. So they cram themselves in there, and Abdul covers the entrance with branches to hide them. Tommy and Jason had a better time of it, with Sue as their guard. They were just, like, lying in a hidden spot along the river, but, like, out in the open. Mm-hmm. And this is where they have to stay for the next 17 hours.
Wait, them in the hole?
In the hole.
In 17 hours they were in that hole?
In the hole. It's 17 hours.
No.
I know. Let's just, how about we take a little break real quick?
Okay.
Okay, welcome back. So, Beth and John continue to have a terrible time as the frigid-ass glacier-fed river starts to flood their cave during the day. And they had to sit there in the wet mud, clinging to each other for warmth.
Gosh, now you add the water element and that detail.
And
that
it's
makes
like
it so much worse.
Ice cold water. Like glacier-fed, ice cold water.
That is
Terrible.
How do you live?
I don't know.
Okay.
When night fell once more, they were let out of their cave, moving like a couple of old people trying to get some blood flowing in their limbs. Like, it's a good thing that they're young, because I don't think I would ever walk straight again.
Right? It'd be so stiff.
Never be able to straighten my back. The climbers got to split a power bar for their meal and are once again on the move.
Split a power bar.
Between 4 people.
Really? It was 4 of them?
Yeah.
1 power bar.
I'm pretty sure it's just 1 power bar.
So it's like a bite each person.
And sometimes Abdul would come and take some too. He's a little dick.
Wow.
Okay, so they get their little power bar, and then they're on the move. Now, Abdul and Sue seem scared of the water, like they can't swim maybe, but they need to cross the river.
Weakness.
Jason actually ends up helping the rebels by putting a log across the river so that they could walk over it. And Abdul even hands him his gun when he walks across, but Jason couldn't even contemplate using it. And then Abdul took it back. So
there's no way. Yeah, I would.
can you
I would
imagine?
freeze too. I would freeze. I would totally freeze.
You're like, well, this is my moment, but now I have to fucking shoot someone. Like,
that's a lot.
That's a lot to put on someone
In a split second.
Yeah,
too.
and you also have another dude with a gun that you'd have to think about too.
Yeah, like what's the aftermath once you pull the trigger?
Right. Oh, so many things.
No.
So I can't really blame him.
No.
So he does this thing, he helps them, and in his mind he's like, okay, I'm doing this on purpose because maybe they'll trust me and I can use that against them later.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So the group travels a little further before stopping once again. And Abdul keeps pulling out his radio, calling Abdullah, Abdullah, Abdullah into it. The Americans realized they were waiting for the other 2 rebels to meet up with them. They had gone to look for food, apparently. But the other 2 rebels don't appear, and the Americans have split off into the same pairs again and are forced to hide in the brush covered with branches. They hid there throughout the day, listening to military helicopters flying overhead and occasional gunshots. At one point, they heard footsteps walking near their hiding spot, and Abdul and Sue threatened them with a look to stay quiet. The men came so close to their spot, Beth knew they were soldiers, and they had to have seen her blonde hair.
Oh.
And in fact, they had seen her blonde hair, but the soldiers had orders not to fire on them if the Americans were there, so the soldiers retreated. It's now about 9 p.m. on August 14th when the climbers are told to move again for their 3rd night of hiking with barely any water or food.
Jeez.
They get to share another power bar between them.
Yum.
And these are rock climbers. They don't have any extra body fat to begin with, so like they're really hurting.
Yeah.
Abdul continues calling out to Abdullah on the radio, but he gets no response, and the Americans can see the red light flashing on the radio, indicating that it was almost dead. The hostages are made to travel most of the night, sometimes collapsing and having to be lifted up by one of their friends and convinced to carry on. All of them past their physical limit. They stop sometime just before dawn and hid in the brush once more. Beth tries to cover herself and John with the sole sleeping bag, but Abdul snatches it away for himself.
He's so chill. He's so cool.
Abdul's a little turd. Like, he's like I don't know. I don't think he's 19, but he's young too. So I don't know. I'm just like, you're a little shit.
I'm just going to take that thing.
Yeah. No, that's mine now. Disturbingly, so he snatches the sleeping bag away. And then as the captors attempt to sleep, they hear ragged breathing from Abdul, who is kneeling with his back to them, but close enough that his feet are touching John and he's masturbating.
Of course he is, because you just have to add that grossness.
I know. I was like, just add some more trauma to the pile. Like,
Ew, it just makes you feel like so gross and dirty.
And like Beth was right there too.
Ew.
And oh, poor girl.
Don't do that.
Just all of it's so gross. So not that masturbating's bad.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I'm like, okay, so like pro masturbation, but not in this fashion.
I'm not shaming masturbation. I'm shaming doing it while you're touching someone else who did
when
not
there's no consent.
ask for it.
Yes,
it's not okay.
Ew.
Okay, I'm glad we cleared that up. We're not prudes, okay? Okay. So during the daylight hours of August 15th, when the rebels aren't listening, Jason and John begin obsessively talking about killing their captors and escaping. They tell the others that if they get taken across the border to the IMU stronghold, they're fucked. And who knows how long that they would be imprisoned or if they would even make it that far. Mm-hmm. Beth and Tommy are disturbed by these conversations. Beth especially wants no part in any killing. She argued that they would probably be rescued soon. Somebody had to know that they were missing by now. Mm-hmm. But Jason and John weren't convinced. They continued planning various attacks, including smashing in the rebels' heads with a rock and tackling to disarm them, and then killing them with their own weapons. Mm-hmm. They labeled Abdul Big Dog and Sue Little Dog so they could talk about killing them when their captors were around.
So sneaky.
So thankful for the language barrier there. When the sun went down on August 15th, the weary group continued their nocturnal travels. They came across an abandoned hut and took shelter there for a short time, hoping for a scrap of food, but there was none. They continued walking through the night, the Americans trying to cheer each other up by talking about their homes and what they missed most, including all of their favorite foods.
Aww.
As they walk, the terrain begins to look familiar, and the captives are astonished to realize that they were being led right back to where the first battle had taken place. So they had just spent days
going in a circle,
walking in a big circle.
The amount of piss.
I know. You're so hungry and tired, and you're like, we've been walking in a circle.
Oh my God.
So the reason for this, and something their captors must have been acutely aware of, was that they were surrounded by Kyrgyz troops who were slowly closing the noose around them. So it's like everywhere they go, they're just getting pushed back a little further until they're right back to where they started. So the rebels were trying their hardest to make it back to Tajikistan, but they were being slowly picked off by Kyrgyz snipers, one by one. Mm. This included the other two rebels who had left in search of food. You know, that Abdullah guy? Mm-hmm. He did. Every time Abdul called for Abdullah on the radio, he was contacting a dead man. He had been picked off.
Okay.
So that's why he's not answering. The group makes it back to the river they had already crossed to cross it again, and then they rest. Sue disappears for about an hour and returns with 2 greasy, smelly brown sacks. One sack contained a large slab of salted yak butter, and the other contained a Kyrgyz snack called kurat, which are dried yogurt balls.
Cute.
Mm-hmm. The yogurt balls are about the size of a walnut, or about half the size of a walnut, and they're really hard. Once you crack the hard white exterior, the inside is sour and oozy.
Sounds delish.
I think these ones particular were just rancid and bad. Like maybe that snack is fine when it's not moldy.
Yeah.
But these were moldy.
Oh.
Which just makes me want to Ralph. But they're so starved that they choke down the yogurt balls and dig their fingers into that greasy yak butter and they scoop it into their mouths.
And
they nearly vomit as the rancid dairy hits their stomachs. But soon it is time. I mean, it's an empty stomach.
Yeah, empty stomach, greasy butter.
Yak butter. Ugh.
That goes right through you.
Oh, the poops. Can you imagine?
Oof.
Oh, God.
Oh, and you're not on a toilet with toilet paper.
Oh, come on.
You're not even shitting in a tube anymore.
No.
Oh, my God.
Dear God, what are they? Oh, I can't even imagine. Poor people. So They don't vomit, though. They keep it down somehow. And soon it's time to move again. And they are walking/limping their way to the Karasu Valley.
I mean, they needed those calories.
I mean, yeah. I've never been the amount of hunger that they are, so I can't say what I would or wouldn't eat in that situation.
I mean, same. I could be totally so desperate. Who knows what I would put in my mouth.
Right? You don't know. All right, so the pattern repeats once again. They're hiding during the day, and they walk at night. So this time they're trying to sleep and ignore Abdul as he is masturbating again nearby. So gross.
Every night?
I mean, 2 nights in a row now.
Come on, dude.
I know. So the Americans try and distract each other by like talking about their families again and like which foods they wanted to eat the most. Like once they got home, it was constantly on their mind. Like all they talked about was food. As night fell once more on the evening of August 17th, the captives were told to walk again, this being their 6th night of captivity.
Jeez.
They are now on the west bank of the Karasu River, only about 3 miles from the yellow wall where they had been captured. Ahead of them lies a tall, craggy ridge. Abdul points to it and explains to the group that they need to climb to the top of that ridge with Sue and wait for him there. On the other side of the ridge, there was a path that would lead them through the Turo Pass back to Tajikistan. Abdul lectures Sue on the desperation of their current position and tells him he may have to make the ultimate sacrifice soon. Abdul tells him he will travel back to the American base camp to grab more supplies and meet him on the ridge. Before he leaves, Abdul takes Jason's warm jacket, leaving him in a thin t-shirt as a final fuck you.
Oh my
and he departs.
Jeez.
I think he had also taken Jason's boots at one point, or like he yanked off one of his boots, put it on his foot, saw that it didn't fit, and then just threw the boot back at him.
Okay.
Like, you dick. He's such a dick.
Ugh.
But Abdul had no plans to return to them. He had secretly spoken to other rebels on the radio who told him that he needed to basically save himself, and the hostages were only going to slow him down. But Abdul would only live for another 36 hours. He would eventually run into a couple of soldiers and die fighting them both. But Sue wasn't the brightest rebel, and he went along with the plan, herding the Americans toward the cliffs to start climbing the ridge. The Americans knew this was their chance. It was now 4 against 1, and their odds weren't going to get any better than that.
Ooh.
They also thought Abdul would be coming back in a couple of hours, so time was of the essence.
Oh, the pressure and the anxiety.
I know. They began climbing the cliffs with Sue, whispering to each other how they were going to do this. The decision was made for Jason or John to hurl Sue off the cliff once they climbed high enough to kill him.
Whoa.
Sue is completely oblivious to these plans and continues climbing higher and higher. He even called Jason over, calling him alpinista and asking what was the best climbing path. He's like, "Oh, you're a rock climber."
Yeah.
You know. The next half hour is met with several almost comical near misses as the Americans attempt to snatch Sue's ankle to pull him off the cliff, but he always seems to move out of the way just in time.
That sneaky bitch.
It's like in the movies that you just like see a hand slowly almost close around his ankle and he just walks off. Tommy watches his friends fail to chuck Sue off the cliff time and time again and realizes that for all of their talk, they just didn't have it in them. They weren't killers. Mm-hmm. He watched as Sue walked across a ledge to climb the final cliff. They were up very high at this point, and Tommy knew something had to be done. He turned to Beth and said, "Jason and John aren't going to do it. That's obvious. We need to get out of here. Do you want me to do it?" Beth just stared at him, but she didn't say no.
Oh.
She watches as her sweet, soft-spoken boyfriend bounds over to where Sue had started climbing and quickly climbs up alongside of him. He reaches for the gun, which is slung across Sue's back, and he yanks the barrel outward. Sue loses his balance and falls backward, his back arching as he struggles to regain balance, but it's too late. A surprised whoosh of breath escapes his lips as he falls backwards into the night sky. The climbers hear a sickening, fleshy crunch as they hear Sue hit a cliff 30 feet below them.
I don't like that you used the word crunch.
Or fleshy together? I know, I didn't either.
Oh, that's gross.
They hear Sue's breath come out as the wind is knocked out of him, and then he rolls off the cliff and is falling once more, leaving the climber's sight.
Oh.
Fucking brutal, man. As soon as Tommy realizes what he's done, a loud wail escapes him, and he immediately begins to sob and shake, saying, "My God, what have I done? How could I have done that? What's wrong with me?"
Oh, I would feel the same way too.
I
There's
know.
too many emotions.
Tommy, you poor sweet boy.
It was for a good reason.
It was the sweet, sweet Tommy. John and Jason are more, celebratory about it. They're like,
yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
But that's still a human.
I know.
It's rough.
It's such a hard spot because, they're like, you saved us. Like, you saved our
Right,
lives. But
right.
now he's got all of this guilt.
Yeah, like he has to own that for the rest of his life, which is a long one, hopefully, since he's so young. But
Ugh, so terrible.
yeah.
Beth does her best to soothe him and thank him for saving them all. But Tommy feels she won't ever be able to love him after he killed someone.
Aww.
Even though Tommy was having a breakdown, the group was still terrified of Abdul coming back, so they begin running as fast as their tired bodies can go towards the direction of the Kyrgyz military base John and Jason had visited when they were looking for that phone. They run for about 10 miles. 10 miles! Practically hallucinating in their fear and exhaustion, expecting to see armed rebels around every rock and bush. It's now about 3 o'clock in the morning, August 18th, and the Americans come to a shrine/graveyard that John and Jason had passed on their way to the military base. It was surrounded by a low wall, anointed with ibex skulls. It's like a very spooky place.
Sounds like it.
They know the army base is less than a mile away, but they also know that there are probably armed men everywhere. And, who's to say that the soldiers aren't going to think that they're rebels and shoot them? It's dark.
Yeah.
The 4 climbers begin to sneak single file along the low wall, but before they could get very far, the night explodes with the sound of automatic weapons firing. The Americans dive behind rocks and bushes for cover as they're pelted with debris from all the bullets hitting the dirt and rocks around them. As the climbers all huddle together by the low wall, they are suddenly surrounded by armed men, aiming their guns at them. One of the climbers shouts, "Amerikansky! Amerikansky! Don't shoot! We're fucking Americans!" The climbers were shoved face down on the ground and roughly searched. One of the men stepped back sharply when he found Beth's bra, not realizing that she was a woman. He was actually really embarrassed, and he apologized to her. Beth was crying, thinking that they were back in the hands of the rebels, and said to Jason, "Singer, we almost made it." And he said, "We did make it, Beth." And then, and then she begins to realize that these are the good guys. They had finally been saved.
Oh, thank goodness.
So the Americans are finally allowed to eat and rest and are taken to Kyrgyzstan. From there, they all form a pact to say that they all pushed Sue off the cliff together.
Ooh.
So that Tommy wouldn't have to take the full blame and responsibility.
Aww.
From Kyrgyzstan, they are flown in a military helicopter to the capital, Batkin, where they are taken to an anti-terrorism base and questioned. They are then subjected to press conferences and had to repeat their stories to several journalists before they are flown on the presidential plane to Bishkek, where they are finally taken to the U.S. Embassy and allowed to call their parents.
Aww.
Their parents, by the way, had no idea that they were missing, that anything was wrong at all.
Wow.
So you can imagine, it's like they get calls in the middle of the night from, I think, where they're living. So I can't imagine that phone call. So the climbers would end up telling the actual truth about who pushed Sue to the U.S. Embassy, but to the press, they kept the same story that they all pushed him. And of course, the press hounded these poor people camping out at their homes for the chance for a photo or an interview.
Of course.
Their story became sensationalized, something Jason and John dealt with much better than Tommy and Beth, who didn't want any of the attention and were still grappling with anxiety and PTSD.
Yeah.
Tommy would eventually come clean about being the one to push Sue, which wasn't shocking. Like, most people found the story of them all pushing him together was hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, what's going to be the situation where that's...
Right. Like, you hold hands or...
Yeah. You're in a circle and he just allows you to come all push him at the same time?
We all did it together. Tommy would struggle with the guilt of having killed someone until they got the incredible news that Sue had actually been found alive.
Whoa.
And captured.
Whoa.
That motherfucker survived. How crazy is that?
That is bonkers. But also, I hope he was so relieved that he didn't kill somebody.
I know, like, so many feelings. Like, he didn't find out until months and months later, too. So he had to deal with it for a while. But, like, now they know that he's sitting in jail and he survived.
Wow.
Nuts. It's just nuts. So, obviously, it did alleviate some guilt for Tommy. But now, because of this, there were journalists who believed that the climbers made the whole story up for attention.
Ugh. Okay.
Yeah. This was incredibly hurtful for the 4 young Americans who didn't ask for any of this, and now they're being called liars.
True.
As close as the group had become through their ordeal, the media attention and ugliness of the situation put a wedge between them, and they grew apart. Beth and Tommy would eventually get married, although they did ultimately divorce. All 4 continued to climb, with Tommy becoming a star in his field, although it would take some time for Beth to find any joy in it again. The incredible survival story of the 4 climbers would soon be overshadowed just over a little bit over a year later when the devastating 9/11 attacks occurred in 2001, changing our world forever. And if you want even more details on the story, I would highly suggest the book Over the Edge and that Outside Online article by Beth Rodden. But I'm going to be done talking for now.
Oh my God, good job.
Thank you.
What a story.
Isn't that a wild story?
It's terrifying.
Just from start to end, it's just like guns and action and running.
And running.
So much running.
And no food.
Yogurt balls. They're like fruit gushers, but gross.
Yeah, not the good kind, no. All right. Here we did it.
We did it.
We fucking did it.
We motherfucking did it.
All right.
What do we do after a story, usually?
We usually do City of the Week. And that goes to Austin, Texas.
Texas. Thanks, Texas. You love us.
Yeah, I was like, weren't they City of the Week before?
Yeah, it's been kind of a smattering of different Texas.
Smattering. That's a good word.
Ooh, fun. Yeah. A few different Texas cities. So thanks, Texas.
Cool. Thanks, Texas.
Shout out to you. Maybe because we did that Texas episode.
That's true. Wasn't that our last one?
Yeah. Shout out for the homies. Do we want to talk about things we've been listening to or watching recently? I will.
Sure.
There's a new album out by Father John Misty. I'm obsessed with him. So listen to that. There's also a new album out by Orville Peck. I'm also obsessed with him. Listen to that.
Oh, yeah.
Your husband also loves both of those.
Yeah. He's played a lot of Orville Peck, and I actually get it stuck in my head, so I like it a lot.
You coming around?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he sounds so much like Elvis.
He does.
And it's just catchy tunes.
It's so good. Michael walked in when I was listening to it the other day, and he was like, "You're weird" or something. It was a Mississippi song, and then he was like, but then he started to get into it.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's spellbinding, isn't it? You like it?
Yeah, you and Chad have both bonded over both of those.
Yeah, Chad and I have a lot of similar music tastes.
You guys really do.
We do. We like to pretend to hate each other, but we have a lot in common.
No, for real. He was just like, maybe me and Abby should go to a concert. I'm like, you should.
Me and Chad just go together. You and Michael can go to your electronic concert. It'll be great.
That's funny. Okay, yeah. That's really good albums and stuff. I've been on maternity leave, and so I've been trying to watch. I mean, I'm still watching all my like normal stuff, like ghost stuff and UFO stuff. But mainly, I think the only like big show drama that I finally finished that I kind of binged because I had the time was The Crown. That's a really good show. It's really well done.
Yeah, you liked it?
Yeah, like I'm learning all about the Queen and the royals and all that.
Is it actually like or what's the word? Biographical? Autobiographical? Is it like real life events or?
I mean, it's based on them. So like, yeah, but like, I think there's like a
There's still some fictional
warning
stuff in there? Okay.
Because I think the royal family was like, this doesn't depict exactly how we want to be viewed.
Of course.
Not everything happened the way it's shown here.
It's
like the same gist.
So we don't like it.
It's all the same stuff. But for some reason, I've been really interested in that and learning about them for some reason. So.
I don't know why I haven't really tried that show. I like British things and
and
old
like period
things.
pieces type thing.
Totally.
It's historical.
Yeah.
Yeah, each episode is like kind of like a different event. The first season is hard. I think that was the hardest. It's a slow season.
Yeah, because I do remember trying it and I was like, meh.
Took me a very long time to get through season 1, but then season 2, way easier to binge.
Okay. Maybe I'll give it a shot. Maybe.
Yeah, because they changed like the actors for the characters because she ages, so it's kind of like interesting how they change the people.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing besides baby.
Okay.
Feeding and changing.
Yeah. Are you missing that baby? You've been away from her now for a few hours.
I kind of do. I kind of want to smell her and hold her a little bit.
Go smell her. All right. Well, I just wanted to say one more order of business that I don't remember if we made it clear, but I'm just going to be doing episodes for a little bit now. So it's going to be every other week that episodes will be released. I don't know if we made that clear, but I won't be doing 4 episodes a month because I'm just one woman. And I can't.
We're going to ease ourselves back into it.
Yeah.
I need to learn how to take notes again while taking care of child.
Yeah, this is like a 2-hour episode or whatever. So this will last you for a while. This is a couple chores or drives.
Yeah. And then it's a whole different story when I start work again.
Yes.
Oh, I'm scared.
I'm scared for you.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think we did it, Abby.
Woo!
Let's get out of here.
I'm going to say good up and good night. Okay, guys, my sources, I read Over the Edge, the true story of the kidnap and escape of 4 climbers in Central Asia by Greg Child. I went to wikipedia.com, outsideonline.com, and I listened to Against the Odds Season 9. Our music is by Broke for Free and Matt Edwards, and we are edited by Michael.
All right. Should I list our social needs?
Please do.
We have a lot of our things at Anxious and Afraid the Pod. So that's our handle for both of our Facebook page and group, along with our Instagram and Gmail.
We have a Twitter at AA the Pod.
You can support us on patreon.com/anxious and afraid.
If you do that, you get some pretty nice perks. You get ad-free episodes that are released a whole day early, and you get a free sticker.
You can also support us for free if you can't do any of that by leaving a rate review. You can subscribe to the show, tell your friends.
Yeah, we would appreciate all of it too right now.
Candles on the table.
Oh my god, I literally said the same. Right when we walked in, I was like, ambiance.
Oh wow, we come here and give them gold on gold. Oh my god.
He planted those items.
It's like they're gonna comment on it.